The movement of goods and services along inland waterways is one of the oldest means of transportation from point to point, as this is largely due to the fact that inland water transport offers the most economical, energy efficient, and environmentally friendly means of transporting all types of cargoes from place to place. It also offers safer and cheaper rates in the areas where water exists naturally. Despite the immense benefit to the economy, inland water transport in Nigeria has not been fully utilized to meet the growing transportation needs of the citizens, particularly the movement of bulk commodities and containerized products into the hinterland. For effective utilization of this means of transport, experts have the view that effective implementation of the Cabotage Act will catalyze the growth and development of the transport sector and reduce the over-dependence on road transportation operations and its consequent damage on the roads. I have joining me live from our Abuja studios to look at this and, of course, make more sense of issues concerning Nigeria's waterways. He is no other person but the Chief Executive Officer and Managing Director of the National Inland Waterways Authority, Mr. George Moghalu. Good afternoon, Mr. Moghalu. It's very, very good to see you, sir.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me.
Yes. Let's go straight to the point. Nigeria has about 10,000 kilometers of waterways that can obviously provide all year round navigation for transport of bulk cargoes and passengers. Let's first analyze the recent infrastructure development we have to support the utilization of water resources versus your forecast of infrastructural facilities for an efficient intermodal transport system in line with best global practices that is safe, seamless, and affordable. Did you get my question, CEO?
I've actually lost you. You were speaking and then all of a sudden it went off.
Okay, I'm saying that let's analyze the recent infrastructure development in the water space and what have we had to support the utilization of water resources versus your own forecast for the growth of this sector.
Yeah, thank you, Tolu, for having me once again. And the truth about it is that in your opening remarks, you actually talked about water transportation, the value is going to add to the economy, what is expected of it, and things like that. And that's a statement of fact, and I align myself completely with you. The truth still remains that we have, like you said, over 10,000 kilometers of waterways, inland waterways in this country. But as we speak, it's just over 3,000 kilometers that is all year round navigable. But be that as it may, the emphasis therefore for me and for our agency is that we want to develop this to make sure that these 3,500 or thereabout kilometers that are all year round navigable are really all year round navigable, making sure that the channels are open constantly so that we can be able to move bulk cargo, particularly within the inland waterways. In your opening remarks, you talked about the benefits. They're quite a lot. When you look at the eco-friendliness, you talk about the environmental friendliness, you talk about the cost implication, you talk about the volume and what have you. So, and if you look at it from developed economies, you find out that bulk cargoes are actually moved either by water or by rail. So, and ours cannot be different because of the advantages that go with it. Having said that, for us in the industry, a lot is being done so that we can develop our waterways so that it can be able to play the expected role so that it can make its own contribution to the development of our national economy. And if you know, let me just remind us that the government has completed a world-class port, inland port in Onitsha. There's also a completed inland port in Baro, in Niger State. As we speak now, there's also a port, an inland port that is being developed in Yamata in Kogi State, Lokoja, Kogi State. There's also an inland port that is being developed in Oguta. That of Kogi, Yamata has achieved almost about 60% completion level. That of Oguta, about 57-58% completion level before it was abandoned for quite a while. But because of the emphasis, because of the realization that we need to put these ports into active use, we have identified what the challenges are and addressing them. For example, the Uguta River port that was abandoned over a very long time. As we speak, by the grace of God and the approval of our ministers and our ministry, we've been able to bring it back to budget. As we speak, procurement process is going on so that we can commence the fencing to get that environment properly secured, so that the investments government has made already and the ones government intends to make so that that port can be completed, can be safe. So that is what we're trying to do. Therefore, Moghalu River Port, like everyone is aware, I've said it a few times on television and even in the newspapers, that the port, yes, world class, very well completed. The challenge that we have is that of accessibility. But I'm glad to say that the federal government has taken note of this particular challenge, and we all now have the road to Barrow, one of the roads, the major road to Barrow River Port in the budget for consideration. The Niger State government also has developed interest or have shown interest, and they're working towards doing one of the roads. And we have also opened up discussion with interested groups who are interested in completing doing the road, who are interested in concessioning the port. There's also a group that is interested in concessioning the Uguta River Port. We are also in this process realizing what is expected of us, doing some infrastructure developments by way of building jetties at various locations. Jetty in Odegba in Anambra State, jetty in Yenegoa, jetty in Iwokwi in Ondo State, repairing and renovating the ones we have in Lagos and a few other locations. So the issue of infrastructure development, everyone is conscious of this fact that we need to get our infrastructure with regards to water transportation up to speed so that we can now play the role that is expected of us. We are happy that we have received all the needed support from our ministry. Our two ministers have been wonderful. The permanent secretary, everyone sees the need that we need to get our water transportation functional so that it can play the needed role. There's also synergy. There's also a good interagency relationship between us and our sister agencies. All share this same sentiment that we need to develop our intermodal transportation system so that we can get all aspects of the industry working for the benefit of our people. So basically, a lot is being done to get our infrastructure up to speed so that we can play the role that is expected of us.
A very good breakdown there, CEO. But just recently, the Barge Operators Association of Nigeria collaborated with Maritime Workers Union. Can you hear me?
I'm having some challenge, but...
Okay, I said the Barge Operators Association of Nigeria collaborated with Maritime Union workers to enhance waterway transportation, seaport decongestion, and strengthening interface with government and regulatory bodies. Now, how critical would you say are sister agencies' collaborations in achieving your goals?
It's quite critical, and we understand this fact that we need to build synergy. Like you just talked about the Barge Operators Association, we are in touch with them, we are in constant consultation with them, and we are talking with them. They are partnering with us. Because if you notice, we actually need them to move cargo from the major ports, the Lagos major ports and Port Harcourt or Ne, to move cargo into the hinterland, into these our inland ports and the jetties we have across the country. And for us to do this, we need barges. For inland water transportation, you cannot exclude the fact that the barges play a critical role. So we have already engaged them, and we are talking with them, and we are working with them. Because when we did the test run of movement of cargo between Lake Onitsha and One in River State, they played a key role because we have barges that we use to move those consignments between Onitsha and Port Harcourt and vice versa. And what we are trying to do now to move cargo between Lagos and Onitsha is also, we are going to also use barges. And I'm very happy to say that they have so much interest, the Barge Owners Association of Barge Operators. They have registered with us, and we have licensed a good number of them. I think about 14 at the last count. And they are partnering with us so that we can now bring into fruition our desire to make sure that we move cargo between Lagos and Onitsha in the first instance before we expand our scope of operation.
Well said. Again, 28 out of Nigerian states are accessed by water and linked to 5 neighboring countries. In the area of trade facilitation and regionalization agenda and creating new hubs, to what extent do you think our governors understand this resource and the need for workable blueprints and favorable policies to encourage water transport?
I very much agree with you that the state governments have a critical role to play in developing this industry. Like you rightly observed, about 28 states of our country can be accessed by water. And that is a very great advantage we have to build on. Inland water transportation is so critical in developing our economy and then strengthening our development. So I think that the state governments themselves have a very strong role to play. And like I was telling a few people who came to pay me a courtesy visit yesterday in our office in Lokoja, I told them I'm going to go to Edo State in a matter of days because I want to go and see and engage the state government and with regards to the issue of developing a new port in Edo State. I'm also aware that Ondo State government is also interested, is about developing also another port in Ondo State. So for us, we need to engage the states. We need to get them involved because these waters pass through areas that cover most of these states. So if we can get the buy-in of the state governments so that we can present our challenges, our difficulties, so that we can see how we can achieve solutions. If we get the buy-in of these states, I'm sure that we're going to develop the industry and it will be to everybody's benefit.
Indeed, the support of the state governments remain key. Now, let's look at the national transport policy. Do you think the objective of that, as the concerned waterways, are clear to support the agenda it was set for?
Yes, it's very clear. It's very clear. Very clear. If you look at the transport policy, the issue of water transportation is clearly spelled out. Just like you have the issue of rail transportation, land transportation, and all clearly spelled out. The issue of water transportation is confidently addressed in the transport policy.
But I know your sector too, talking waterways will be a little capital intensive. Tell us a little bit about that. How has it been, CEO? Talking about capital. I'm talking about finance now. I said, how easy has it been talking about finance? It's capital intensive to build infrastructure on waterways.
Yes, it's quite intensive. There's no doubt as to the fact that you require quite a lot of capital to develop that industry. But you cannot, the reality facing every one of us is that you cannot get all you want at the same time. So what you now do is to prioritize your needs, is to be able to deal with the issues as they come up. And we are laying so much emphasis in getting private sector participation. I'm engaging quite a lot of people, a lot of groups that have shown interest in partnering with us to develop the water transportation sector. And it's yielding quite very positive developments.
Let's bring in focus now the wings of inland waterways, police and checkmating smuggling through our waterways. How has that also been?
Yes, like you know, the National Inland Waterways Authority has its own police. Apart from that, there's the Marine Police, there's the conventional police, the Navy is there, the Air Force, everyone. The truth is that everyone is concerned about having security and making our waterways safe. At the same time, checking the activities of smugglers who may want to take advantage of the diversity of our inland waterways to now do things that are out of reckoning. But the truth here remains that, like every other sector, we will keep making some investments to see that we address the issue of providing them the materials they need to be able to do the work and do it well, address the issue of their welfare to make sure that they're happy doing what they're expected to do. So I'm sure that they are very conscious of that fact. This opportunity provides me an opportunity to appreciate the security agencies for the support we have consistently received from them. The Navy, the Air Force, the police, everyone is committed in making our waterways safe and functional.
Now, can you, almost finally, can you assess or rate the level of public-private partnership, or let me say that feel as you're getting? How receptive are private investors? We know what's happening with rail, a lot of investments going both local and foreign. How receptive are they with regards to water? I mean, investors.
The truth about it is that we've done quite a lot of sensitization.
Wow.
Realizing that this industry was abandoned for a very long time. There was no interest. Nothing was being done to develop that sector. But as it is today, the awareness is increasing. I've engaged the Chamber of Commerce, particularly those in Anambra State, Onitsha, precisely. I've also engaged the private sector by way of dealing with organizations and agencies. On the 12th of next month, I have a meeting with a group, a foreign team, that wants to bring in ferries to address the issue of transportation they were specific in terms of their demand, talking about providing ferries to work between Oron, Calabar axis, Port Harcourt axis, and then Lagos axis. So we're talking with them. There are quite a lot of groups that have shown interest. There's a group we're talking with tomorrow. They are interested in in developing a jetty of their own in somewhere in Delta State in Asaba, so that they can put a ferry service system between Asaba, Onitsha, and Asaba, Osemoto, from what they wrote, the paper they presented to me. So the awareness is coming back. So what we need to do is to sustain it, is to encourage them, is to support them, give them all the necessary assistance we can, so that they can buy into what we are trying to do. You see, when we wanted to experiment moving cargo between Onitsha and One Onitsha, everybody discouraged us. Even the private sector were skeptical. They were scared, and they did not show interest. But the moment we were able to succeed in that trial run, it awakened interest, and people started talking with us, and that was what led to our holding a meeting with the Chamber of Commerce, discussing with them the Importers Association. We have discussed with them. We have reached understanding and agreements, and what we are trying to do this time around is to make sure that all those agreements we reached, that will bring them into practice. And the moment we do this, like the one we are trying to conclude to move cargo between Onitsha and Lagos, the moment we're able to do this, the private sector will be more encouraged to buy into it. But now they expect government to do it. They need us to set the example. And we are conscious of this fact, we are conscious of this feeling, and that is what we are addressing now. So the interest is coming back. So what we need to do as an agency of government is to keep encouraging them, is to keep sustaining it, and see to what extent we can keep it in the front burner.
Let's wrap up on this note, CEO. How are we also looking at meeting up with global best practices, particularly issues around safety on our waterways? I think that's also important. We can also talk about affordability too.
Yeah, that is very critical. You cannot talk about inland waterways without talking about the security. And that was why when I was speaking, I said, I must commend government because of the commitment they have demonstrated. Their desire, the issue of security is not limited to any particular sector of the economy. It's a national issue that is being addressed aggressively by government. Everyone can see to what extent the government has demonstrated commitment in addressing the issue of insecurity across the country. And the waterways cannot be separate, cannot be different. But I must commend the commitment that has been demonstrated by the Navy, by the security agencies, and also by the NIWA personnel, the NIWA police, because of the commitments we have shown, because we realize the economic potentials of getting our waterways all year round functional and safe. So there's commitment there, and we're determined to make sure that it is safe.
Any more challenges aside security that can also be addressed?
Yes, naturally, like every other sector of the economy, you can't get all the money you need at once. But what that requires is to, first of all, develop a policy, work towards it, prioritize your needs, and then be addressing them as the challenges come up. And that is exactly the style of policy we have addressed.
It's really nice having you in the studio. Thank you very much for your time, Mr. George Moghalu, who is the MD CEO of the National Inland Waterways Authority. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Thank you, Tolu, for having me. Thank you.